Good afternoon, everybody. I'm making homemade bread, and I'll start by making a dough. This is flour, which I'm opening, and I will mix it with some few ingredients. So I'm going to use half of this packet. It's gonna be a lot of bread, but I'm going to show 3 different ways that you can use dough to feed your family or to make bread. So make sure that you close the packet carefully before you store it. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of yeast. I'm quickly fetching a teaspoon that I will be using to add some yeast into the flour. Oops, struggling to open it, so 1 teaspoon will be enough. Again, the measurements depend on the amount of dough you are making and the amount of flour that you are using. I'm looking for some salts that I will add. I'm using pink Himalayan salt because in my house we are healthy and we use Himalayan salt. Check the health benefits of using Himalayan salt. And then after adding Himalayan salt, I will be adding sugar. Again, it depends on the kind of sugar you will be using, because I'm just going to be using these granules because they are healthy in my standards. Otherwise I wouldn't have even used sugar in this dough. So I thought, let me just add 1 teaspoon of it, and then I'm sorry for yawning, and then I'm looking to mix boiling water quickly. You don't have to use boiling water in the dough, you have to mix it. If you've ever had a baby and you bath a baby, do you know how you feel the water? Otherwise, put your finger and make it a point that it's a little bit hot, and then after you are sure that it is hot, not the boiling hotness, but not the lukewarm. But as I said, if you've ever bathed the baby, remember, mothers, that you would put your elbow to feel the heat of the water. But in this case, you have washed your hands before making this dough, so you are allowed to put your finger into the water to test how hot it is, because you wouldn't want to cook your dough before even cooking it. What's the use of allowing it to rise if you will cook it before real cooking it? So as I'm a little bit quiet here, I am busy mixing the water and then putting it in a jar. It's already mixed. There, I'm using my hands to mix the ingredients so as to make the dough. Some people will make a dough with a spoon. I don't know that kind of one. I only use a spoon to make a dough for cakes. But this one, I'm using my hands So you use your fingers to mix the ingredients, and as you mix it, you are monitoring it. It doesn't have to be too wet like mud, but it has to be wet according to the standards of the dough. Some people talk about different dough for different breads. You'll find some people would say if you are making fat cooks, the dough must be a little bit wet as opposed to making a steamed bread. We will see the outcomes of my breads today, because this dough I will divide it into 3 and use it to get fat cooks, to get dumplings, and then to get a baked bread. As I continue with this video, I'm going to show you a bread making machine. Next time I'm making a dough, I will allow the machine to even mix the dough on its own. But first, I was mixing it with my hands to show my friends who don't know how to make the dough, who don't know how to make a bread. In South Africa, I don't want to say in Africa, we make bread this way. That's the way I have known. We call it in my language Intlama, and where we make amagwinya fat cooks, where we make umbhako baked bread, and where we make steamed bread is idombolo. No, not it's idombolo, isonka samanzi. Excuse me. So I'm mixing it, and my dough will be ready soon. Some people, again, this one depends on you, they add flour in the dough. I don't do that. I only add flour when I'm finished, to make the dough not to stick in my hands only. And sometimes when your dough has a reason, because as you see, I will be covering it when I'm finished, and will give it minutes to rise. Then when it has risen, and again you are using your fist to mix it, it is then that you put cooking oil in your hands to be able to mix the dough. Hence I say different strategies for different cooks. It depends on your cooking skills. But towards the end of this video, you will see the kinds of bread that I will produce. Unfortunately, you won't be able to taste it like me. How I wish you were to taste it. But if you manage to use my recipes and to make your own bread, comment in the comment section and tell me how it feels. Because for me, towards the end, I managed to get fresh, nice bread. And this was the first time that I'm using flour in Europe, and I'm making dough. First of all, I wasn't sure that I was gonna get flour, and I was happy to get the flour. Then I thought, let me do it the African way and see if it's doable. And in continuing with my dough, as you can see, it's coming together. I so wish I was able to do it quickly, because the intention for me is to show you the final product. Did I mention that please wash your hands before making a dough? I can't remove the gel in my nails, but it won't move with the dough into my bread because it is gel as long as you wash your hands. I don't know if other people wear gloves when they make a dough. I wouldn't think it's healthy. I would prefer washed hands with your dishwasher, and then also for the hygiene of yourself and of the people who will be eating the bread when you are finished with it. And remember, we need to try and prepare healthy meals for our families. So my dough is ready now. These are the final touch-ups for it. And another trick of knowing when the dough is ready is when it no longer sticks in your hands. When it doesn't stay in your hands, then you know that it is finished. And then the next thing after my dough is finished is to cover it. Look at that. Then I have already put oil in the pan, and I'm going to make fat cooks. This is how we make fat cakes, fat cooks. So I've put about 4 of them, and the next pot is having dumplings. There's meat, there's vegetables, which I will mention in the comment section. There's meat, there's vegetables, then you cook, then
and these
put
are
the dough.
So
look at the fat cooks when they are finished.
I know
and
from South Africa. I don't
you
know if
can
the other
serve them with anything. My dumplings are boiling, continue to boil there. So I've closed the pots. So the remaining dough I will put in
I'm going to bake this
bread making machine. This is a bread making machine from Russell Hobbs. Remember, I said earlier, it makes dough on its own. You just mix, and it's having its own recipes, with I'm showing you
at the back where they tell
those
you how
are
to
the
bake
recipes
cake,
that I'm showing you.
all of that.
So I've made my own dough with the purpose of showing someone who doesn't know.
I don't know if the camera will allow me.
But next time I will allow it to make dough on its own,
how it looks like,
and
inside.
show
so
you
I'm going to put the bread here,
how it spins
and
there,
then allow it to bake,
and then how it bakes the bread.
So I will put butter.
But before you bake any bread,
bake with butter,
I will use butter. Some people at home use
so I'm putting butter in the pan that I've shown you.
wholesome. Do you remember the fat that is called wholesome? I prefer butter, which I am using to. I'm using it in the pan before
I've got little dough left.
My dough. So that was the remaining dough.
It into 3. I've divided it into fat cook, into dumplings.
I will make bread out of. And trust
I'm
me,
going to connect the machine.
This was a lot. You can do one thing at a time, unlike me. Going back to the stove, these are my dumplings. They are very nice, and Again, in the comment section, I will put the recipe. Those are the dumplings
the final
finished
product
now.
of the
Can you see?
dumplings.
This is the meat where I've put the dough.
I've cooked it in
and
pieces of meat, lamb,
vegetables.
I've added onions,
and my dough.
red
It is
pepper,
so delicious.
chilies, ginger,
and
rosemary spice,
and it tastes
and a meat
good.
spice.
And
as I
as
showed
you see, it's a meal on its own, which means you don't have to
boil,
make a big dough sometimes. Even though you can also keep the bread fresh.
This is the final product.
To use.
I'm going to cut the dough for
like
you
we
so
buy
that you
bread.
see.
Going
Cheers.
back to my bread, my bread is finished now. Look at it. This is the bread, the last dough that I put in the bread making machine. Look at it. Look at it, look at it, look at it. And it's brown, it's finished, and it's soft and fresh because it is homemade. Oh, look at it, so fresh. Cheers.